Hey there, this is Ye Old Battle Reps with another Kings of War Universal Battle Report. This is just a straight up kill scenario, the same as my others. 1,500 points. I'm using Dwarfs and I'm going up against Elves. So as usual, I'll put the army lists in the video description and I'll go over deployment now. So starting with my Dwarfs at the top, left to right. I've got 2 units of Sharpshooters, a unit of Ironguard, and in front of them 2 organ guns. Behind them an ASB, Warsmith, who's the sort of guy with the blue glowing light, 2 hordes of Ironclad and another ASB. Over to the right there's a steel Behemoth, and on the far right there's a troop of Brock Riders. And the only magic item I've got is one of the ASBs has the healing charm. And the Elves left to right, a horde of Sea Guard with a Brew of Strength and 2 Mages behind them. I can't remember what spells they have. They come with heal. I think one of them might have Bane Chant as well. 2 units of Stormwind Cavalry, their regiments, and a mounted ASB behind them. A unit of Palace Guard, Sea Guard and Palace Guard again, and another ASB on foot behind them. I don't think they've got any magic items. So let's start the battle. Elves get the first turn and everyone moves up. The Sea Guard horde marches up. The Stormwind Cavalry take care to avoid the trees, obviously. The 2 units of Palace Guard start to come round to the left hand side of the building, and the small unit of Sea Guard just goes forwards. So there's no shooting at this stage and no magics needed, so it's straight onto my turn. So movement, I move my Ironguard unit in front of the organ guns, because in Kings of War you can move through your own units. Both of my hordes of Ironclad just move up a bit. I think the one on the right actually marches straight towards the Palace Guard, and I quite like the situation on the right hand side with the Behemoth and the Brock Riders as well, advancing towards the Sea Guard unit. In shooting, my Sharpshooters shoot at the horde of Sea Guard and do 4 wounds. I'm just hoping for a lucky waiver roll on them. I think I need to start chipping wounds away from them as well, because I figured my organ guns could take care of one of the units of Stormwind Cavalry. So both organ guns fire at the nearest unit, do 9 wounds, but I don't destroy or waver them, and I'm going to be taking a charge from both of them now, which I don't think I'll be able to handle. Elves turn 2, so both units of Stormwind charge into my central unit of Ironclad, and the 1 unit of Palace Guard charges my other horde of Ironclad. The horde of Sea Guard pivots and advances around that lake or marsh, or puddle I suppose, and the other unit of Sea Guard pivots towards the Brock Riders. Finally, the unit of Palace Guard also continues to make its way around the building. In shooting, both of his mages heal the Sea Guard horde and bring them down to just 1 wound suffered. That Sea Guard horde then decides to shoot. For some reason it shoots at the Ironguard unit. I'm not sure why he didn't choose to shoot one of the Sharpshooters, and could probably quite easily destroy one of those units, but instead you can just about see the Ironguard, so fires at them, but they don't take any wounds and they're defense 6. And the other Sea Guard unit, again I think it would have been better for him to shoot at the Brock Riders since they're defense 4, but he shoots at the Behemoth and again doesn't do any wounds. I guess maybe shooting at the Ironguard unit, he was hoping for a lucky waiver roll like I was last turn, so that they couldn't charge the Stormwind potentially next turn. So I guess that makes sense. So combat, and this is huge for me. This the Stormwind Cavalry do not destroy the horde of Ironclad. They do 15 wounds. Basically, they just got really unlucky on the wound rolls and rolled loads of 1s and 2s. And I've got my re-roll from the ASB, so my unit's fine. The Palace Guard do 6 wounds to the other unit of Ironclad. So this is a disastrous turn of events for the Elves now. My turn 2, or should I say, this is now turn 4 of the game, but it's round 2. So I guess this is my round 2. It's kind of weird getting used to it coming from Warhammer. Yeah, so I think I'll call it my round 2 rather than turn 4, but I'm not sure what the general consensus is on that terminology. So what I decided to do is charge the flank of the wounded unit of Stormwind with my Ironguard, and the other unit of Ironclad which survived the charged the unwounded unit of Stormwind. This leaves my organ guns free to fire at the Sea Guard horde. The one on the right hand side can literally just see that unit, so it can shoot at them. I don't know if I maybe should have shot both the organ guns at the unwounded unit of Stormwind instead. That might have been better, because they would obviously do a lot more wounds than my my Ironclad would. And the other Ironclad charge into the Palace Guard, and my Brock Riders and Behemoth charge into the regiment of Sea Guard. Shooting's actually pretty bad, so both the units of Sharpshooters and both organ guns only do a total of 8 wounds to the Sea Guard horde, bringing them to a total of 9, and they're obviously fine on their nerve check. I don't think I can even can do anything to them unless I roll a double 6 now. And in combat, the Ironguard unit destroy the wounded Stormwind. My Ironclad horde does 5 wounds to the other unit, which I'll take that. That basically means they don't get Thunderous Charge next turn, so it makes them a lot worse. My other horde does 7 wounds to the Palace Guard. Most surprisingly of all, though, my Behemoth and Brock Riders only do 5 wounds to the Sea Guard regiment, who are then fine. I think, well, basically the Brock Riders don't get Thunderous Charge because of the spears from the Sea Guard, and the Behemoth, I think it just only hits on 5+, so I just don't get many hits with that. Elves turn 3. The Sea Guard charge into the Ironguard unit. The other Sea Guard, they don't do anything. Basically, they don't. I asked my opponent whether he wanted to charge them, because I thought he might have forgotten. He didn't want to charge the Brock Riders, because then he would leave the gap open for the Behemoth to go through, so that's a smart move. However, I didn't even think at the time that he could have just charged the Behemoth. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do anything to it really. It's defense 6, but you know, every wound counts. Other charges, the Stormwind obviously go back into the Ironclad horde, and then both units of Palace Guard charge into the other unit of Ironclad. So I'm pretty sure that right hand unit of Ironclad is dead. This picture is also after shooting, so you can see the mages have healed 5 wounds onto the Sea Guard horde now, because they've both got heal 3 and they're elite, so they reroll 1s, so that's pretty good. They heal a lot of wounds per turn. So after combat, it looks like this. The Sea Guard bounce off of the Ironguard unit, doing 1 wound. The Stormwind only do 3 wounds now to the Ironclad horde and waver them. And as you can see, the Palace Guard have destroyed that other unit of Ironclad, and this I think is a bit of a mistake. He pivots the left-hand unit, but the right-hand unit he advances, and I think he rolls like a 5 or 6, so they now can't see anything next turn. Dwarfs, round 3. So there's not a lot of movement. I back up the wavered unit of Ironclad, move a couple of characters around like the ASB and the Warsmith, and then I charge my Behemoth and Brox back into the Sea Guard, obviously. My Ironguard don't charge into the Sea Guard horde. So shooting, I feel a bit bad about this, really. Both of the Sharpshooter units do a few wounds to the Sea Guard horde, and then the Ironguard, which didn't charge, release their throwing mastiff, but that wasn't noted on the unit, and we are playing with open lists. All upgrades and everything are noted on our units. You can't see it on these pictures, but we can see it in the battle. But I had neglected to note this on that unit. Checked my list and realised I'd paid for the upgrade, and my opponent kindly allowed me to use the mastiff. But in hindsight, I guess that was a bit unfair, really, and it, unfortunately for my opponent, it led to that horde of Sea Guard being wavered, which is really not good for the Elves. The organ guns take a calculated risk. One of them fires at the already wounded Palace Guard and destroys them, and the other one, I guess the risk paid off because I managed to waver the Stormwind as well. And because of the outer position other unit of Palace Guard, I can destroy that unit next turn since nothing else is threatening me. And in combat, the Behemoth's performance is finally consummate with its price and reputation. It does a bunch of wounds, as do the Brox, and quite easily destroy that regiment of Sea Guard, and I advance both of those units. Elves, round 4. Both of his main units are wavered, so there's not a lot I can do. His Palace Guard advance and then pivot to threaten my characters and my horde. His ASB on horse charges the organ gun, which was a good move. I didn't really see that. And that's all of his movement, really. So this picture is after shooting and combat. In shooting, both of his mages heal his Stormwind and do 3 heals, so it's down to 6 wounds suffered now. In combat, unfortunately, his ASB doesn't manage to get any wounds through on the organ gun, so that will be able to shoot next turn. Dwarfs, round 4. I charge the Ironclad into the Stormwind. I don't charge the Ironguard into the Sea Guard. That's because I figure the Sharpshooters alone could probably do more wounds to that unit than they would in combat. And also I've got the option of the organ guns if needs be. And then the Brox and Behemoth start to come round that building. I have to pivot so they can't move that far though. In shooting, I think I get quite a lot of wounds from both of the Sharpshooter units. It's their best round of shooting so far, and they do enough wounds to the Sea Guard horde that I figure I don't even need the organ guns to fire at them. I'll probably rout them. So the left organ gun fires at the Mage, who had the inspiring talisman. Actually, I don't think I mentioned that, and do I think 5 wounds. So I just think I'll risk the other one firing at the ASB, but only do 1 wound to that. And it was indeed enough to destroy the Sea Guard, and the Mage also gets unlucky and dies as well. And in combat, the Ironclad destroy the Stormwind and turn round to face the Palace Guard. So now it would be the start of Elves, round 5, but taking a look at the situation on the board, my opponent now concedes, and I think that's fair. He's got no ranged attacks now. He might be able to pick up an organ gun, and the Palace Guard could pick up the Ironclad horde, but then I've got my Ironguard, Behemoth, Brox, and I'll still have an organ gun, and can even bring round the Sharpshooters possibly. His Palace Guard cannot fend off all of those units. So the game ends with a victory for the Dwarfs. So thoughts at the end of the battle. It really fell apart for the Elves when the Stormwind failed to break the Ironclad horde, and also a couple of unlucky waivers late on in the game, and the Palace Guard being out of position as well didn't help things. For myself, organ guns are really strong. They're not that expensive, and they're just so devastating. So really liking them, and really like the Sharpshooters as well. They're long range and 4+ range attack, which is quite rare for Dwarfs, I think. I think they're they're a bit expensive, but I think they're pretty good. I'll try them out more in future as well. Yeah, it was a good battle. Just a few mistakes and a bit of bad luck from my opponent. I still feel myself that I'm not really comfortable with the tactics side of things really yet. I still feel as though I'm playing a lot by intuition, but it seems to be paying off at the moment anyway. But hopefully I'll have a sounder grasp of things the more I play. So that's it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.